Hey everybody, welcome back to this episode of The Void. My name is Brennan.
I'm Tyler.
And we are clearly not in an office or at home. We are in a more minimal environment here because we're at camp. So we're recording this on Thursday at camp. And I don't know, Tyler, camp has all the vibes. How's camp going for you so far?
No sleep, MREs in the cabin, which you know a little something about, pool time, kickball. I feel like I've been up for 6 days straight, so I love it.
Let me tell you and the listeners something about MREs. If you are not a trained combat professional, do not eat them.
Oh, yeah,
Do
that
not
was a rough
eat
night.
them. I thought it might be a good idea to try to build some morale and eat an MRE for the first time, which if you're listening and you have no idea what an MRE is, it stands for meal
Ready to eat, yep.
Actually?
Yeah, meal ready to eat,
Oh,
yeah.
I thought it was a more fancy word than that. Meal ready to eat. So it's pretty much a meal in a bag that if you're sitting here in East Tennessee, you can eat it. Or if you're sitting in the mountains of pick your place. Yeah, Afghanistan. You can eat it. So it's not the most nutritious. It's actually designed specifically so that you don't get more hungry and other side effects that make it, able to last. So from about 12 or midnight to 4 a.m. this morning, I could not sleep because my stomach was hurting so bad. So for those of you that are listening and wondering, should I try an MRE?
Yeah, if you have that specific question today, there's your answer.
The cold answer is no, not at all.
What about the warm answer?
The warm answer is if you are more manly than me, go for it. But I'm still in pain.
Yeah, I didn't. I refused the MRE. Well, last year I remember all the pain.
What's the dumbest thing that you've ever done at youth camp?
Oh gosh, at youth camp, left the kids alone.
Okay.
I did that at my last
more to
youth
the story.
camp. What's that?
Give us more of the story.
So I leave the kids alone, and walk into walked into a lot of things. Puke all over the floor.
You puked all over the
No,
floor?
not me. I walk in. When I say left them alone, I mean like 30 minutes.
Okay.
Walk in, there's puke all over the floor. And it also smells like puke and Axe, like deodorant, Axe deodorant spray, which is the worst two combinations. So let me tell you the youth camp story. So I leave, again, 30 minutes, come back, puke, Axe. Turns out one of the kids had a bottle of like ghost chili pepper extract, which was like $40 for like a 1 or 2 ounce little bottle. Yeah, and he was telling us like you had to be 18 to buy it. There's all these like warning labels on it. It's designed to put a drop in a pot of chili for like 20 people. That's what it's designed for. So of course you give that to a 14-year-old. So they're like daring each other. So I get some backstory, and I walk in right as the last kid is puking, which happened to be my brother. So, but I'm like, I go in and leave everybody, come back. There's puke on the floor. What they did to try to mask the smell of the puke is get a bottle of Axe and put rubber bands around it like an Axe bomb.
So it just held down the whole time?
Yeah. So it's just constantly spraying. Threw it in there like a grenade, left the room. So I walk into a room of puke and Axe smell. Worst thing ever.
Yeah.
If I had just stayed around, maybe I could have solved some of that.
I don't even have a story that's that good or disgusting.
Oh, it's bad. Yeah, that was horrible.
Stay tuned with how this MRE ends for me, and I may be able to top it.
Yeah, youth camp is it's such a special experience. It's like an automatic inside joke for anyone else who's ever been to a youth camp. Because you say youth camp, and they're like, youth camp. I mean, just about anything goes.
Yeah, there's an immediate expectation that there's puke on the cabin floor.
Yep.
Toilets are exploded. There's like Dr. Pepper everywhere, trash. Like, you're right, it doesn't have a positive connotation at all.
Even last year, some of our students had like a who can poop from the furthest away and still hit the toilet. So that was a whole nother element. No, that was mine and your kids. So that's a whole nother thing that happened last year. So
well,
it's exciting.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, and they were also poop stacking, which was like, let's see if we can get 4 or 5 at a time before we flush. Dude, phenomenal youth stories. Yeah.
So that is why we love teenagers.
Yeah.
Good segue. No, but we were talking because, yeah, like youth camp does have all these stigmas for being gross and like, I mean, you can see if you're watching on YouTube, like we're not in like the Ritz-Carlton here.
Right.
Like there's a aesthetic to camp that is like minimal beds. You're not gonna eat a 5-star buffet.
Yeah.
It's just part of camp.
Yeah. Right.
But there's things in camp that we were talking about that are like stigmas that we really wish would like go away.
Definitely.
And particularly about youth ministry in general. Share what you were saying earlier about like the age and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so definitely, like, there are stigmas that are definitely true, like we talked about. Those are real stories that happen in youth camp because it is so silly. But I think a lot of the reason why those stories do happen is because when I say we, I'm speaking as like the Western church or like a society. We create a space for it to happen. So there's this book by Alvin Reed called Raising the Bar, and it's the best book I've ever read about youth ministry. But he explains where if you treat it like glorified babysitting, then you'll get like children. But if you treat it like you're training up young pastors, that's what you get. And basically, if you're listening to this, I don't know what your church background is, but if you're in the church circle at all, or like any kind of ministry circle, then you know immediately that youth ministry is viewed as like the bottom of the totem pole.
Yeah.
And if you're like us, if we're young, we're youth pastors, that's because we're working our way up to be a senior pastor. That's just a stigma. And so that's really I don't really know the history of it. I'd say the past 10 or 20 years is like youth ministry is the entry level.
Yeah.
Like especially middle school. That's like how you get started. And so the youth pastor is just the guy who's available who will just take the bullet.
Yeah, he's like the village idiot.
Yeah, exactly. Like the guy who is just there who like has free time. Like, oh, you'd be a good youth pastor. Yeah. And I think that can be true when you do it wrong, but I know that you definitely way more than me have such a vision for the next generation, and I do too. So I really, that kind of frustrates me how we boil youth ministry down to really glorified babysitting instead of like, how can I help the next generation, have a revival or succeed or a pastor, be good husbands, be good wives, be biblically sound parents, because that's what youth ministry should be.
Do you think that, sorry to cut you off, but do you think that's why it's so hard to get people to serve in youth ministry?
I definitely do, because when you say youth ministry, you think of, pizza on the wall, poop on the floor, all this stuff that like happens, but there is no really bar being set when you communicate that message. So I think in some of our students, not to like toot our own horn, but like Skylar was saying, they're kind of refreshed when we come in here and we're like, hey, we expect you to lead. We're going to talk to you about spiritual concepts. We're going to teach you how to pray, how to read your Bible. Yeah. And a lot of youth ministry is not like that. Even my first, I got my first student pastor job when I was 18. The first 2 years, I was basically a glorified babysitter. I was babysitting because I was like doing the youth thing and I had no experience, didn't know what I was doing. So I think for us as two young people who believe in the next generation, the question is like, man, how do we shift the idea of youth ministry from cleaning up poop and babysitting to like actually planting seeds into the next generation so that they can like spread the gospel of Jesus? Yeah.
Maybe share a little bit about like, why are you still in youth ministry?
Well, I'm in youth. I'm going on 6 years now. I think I'm right at 6 years of being part-time, full-time, associate, lead. I've been a lot of different roles in youth ministry.
Because you could do anything.
Yeah.
Like not just in a church, but like you don't have to be a pastor.
Right. I could work at the golf course.
Right.
I love working at the golf course. Right. I think I'm still in youth ministry because of the wins, and I'll explain what I mean. When you see a kid like Zachary, for example, he was our intern, and Zachary, he's been going to this church since he was like literally, there is a picture as you come in to our church. It's like of like a 2-year-old on the wall. It's literally Zachary, and he just graduated high school. Yeah. So he is legit been raised in that church. Seeing him come like into our internship, want to learn more about youth ministry, watching him grow, get more mature, learn, then decide to be a student pastor, and like by the grace of God, give us credit and like point to us and say that like we did it, and for him to say and like his parents to tell me like he's doing this because of you. Obviously, he's doing it because of God, but you see that and you're like, that is worth it. Yeah. And so I think that's the whole part about youth ministry that's hard is is sifting through the nonsense and sifting through, because there are a lot of students. I mean, I was like this in high school. There are a lot of kids that what you say is going to go in one ear and out the other.
Yeah.
But even if it's just like one a year,
Right.
which, again, I got a burp, a Dr. Pepper. Again, because like by the grace of God, I've been able to see more than one a year.
Yeah.
But seeing that student clearly go a different direction, pursue Jesus, answer the call to ministry, it's just so rewarding.
Yeah, I think the thing that the Lord's been showing me the most and working on me the most is the idea, and I know you've heard me say it before, but playing the long game. And stopping, like even with my own life, trying to just look in 1, 2, 3 year spurts, but look at, who am I becoming in 5 years, in 10 years. And I think when it comes to youth ministry, I think that's what excites me the most, is because we get to spend time with teenagers that, we don't know what they're going to be doing when they're 25, 26, 27. Yeah. But the idea that they could be doing something great for the kingdom of God because of an experience they had as a teenager, that's enough for me to be exhausted at camp and figure all the other stuff out. But if I can just go on like a tangent here, what kind of like rubs me the wrong way, especially with teenagers and high schoolers, is when people quit on teenagers.
Yeah.
And they give up on them, or they say, they're just so different, and I don't know how to communicate with them. And you may not know how to communicate with them. They may be different than what your understanding is. But I want to say all the time to those people that are like, I just can't get through to my teenager. He's so different. He's so yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
I want to say, were you easy at 16?
Right.
Were you easy to get along with at 15? Were you like, when your parents said something, were you just like, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, and like you just did it?
No, you just figured it out.
You probably weren't. It kind of goes back to what we were talking about with Skylar, is like there's this learning process, not only of who we are, but who we are in Christ, that this generation needs more youth pastors that are not just trying to get to the next thing or the next level. Because, I told you last night, I had this thought, and, you and I always talk about systems. We talk about philosophies. We talk about youth ministry, next-gen ministry in general. How do we make sure we're doing good with kids? How do we make sure we're doing good with students? We never actually know if our youth ministry philosophy works until we've seen it tested on a third grader and the result as a senior in high school.
Yeah, and data backs that up.
We'll never really know because we talk about working the soil and planting seeds, we'll never have an idea if the seeds turn out to be anything if we're out in, 8 months.
Yeah, and what's the average a job span of a youth pastor? Like 20 months?
18 months.
Yeah, 18 months. Yeah, there you go. That stat makes me so mad. And I get that most churches struggle, but I think you're exactly right. I think that why the average lifespan, if you want to say that, job span of a youth minister is 18 months, and why there is like all this desperation is I think that I'd say as a whole, people just don't believe in this up-and-coming generation.
Yeah.
And they need people who believe in them. Like I had a Zoom.
Which is terrible.
Yeah, it is. And I had a Zoom call a couple days ago with, if you listened to the last episode, you know that me and Claire are moving to Birmingham, and I'm student pastoring that. Yeah, I know, shocking. Yeah, I forgot to tell you that, by the way. But so we're going, and then I had a Zoom call with 6, 7, 8 parents that go to that church that have kids in the student ministry. And like I told you, it was just so much desperation. From minute one of the Zoom call. 8 o'clock Zoom call, 8:02. They're like, I need you to help my kids. I need you to, be a father figure. I need you to show me what to do. I'm lost. I've tried everything. I can't relate to my kid. They're always on their phone, blah, blah. I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And we hear that from so many more parents nowadays. And it's seeing that brokenness. And I guess that's another reason why I'm still in youth ministries, because I have a desire to reconcile that. I have a desire to not only resource parents, but help them restore their faith in their kid. Because kids are extremely observant, especially teenagers. And the main reason they're observant is because we think they're not. So we talk and act like they're not, and we give them way more than we should. Teenagers are incredibly observant. So if you if you're a parent or if you're a teacher or a student pastor and you don't have faith in your kids, they know that.
Yeah.
They know. They know you don't have faith in them, and they can feel it. They can hear it in your voice. They can sense it. So that is kind of my heart, and I know it's your heart too, is giving them a presence, giving them someone who believes in them. Yeah. Because if you believe in a sovereign God who can part the Red Sea and bring Abraham up and make a nation out of him, redeem David, redeem Moses, if you believe in that God, you know he can and he is going to redeem this next generation.
My favorite part of youth ministry is how, like you're saying, they can smell real or fake from a mile away.
Way better than we can. Yeah.
From a mile away. They know if you actually care about them. They know if you actually mean what you say. They know if you believe in the message that you're talking about. Yeah. And we talk all the time. It's so funny because, we'll try to do these things to, whether it's connect kids or engage kids or whatever it is. But no matter the dollar value, no matter the level of the experience, it's always funny how at the end of the day, they just want to connect with you and know that you care.
Yeah.
Like they're so okay with getting a bag of popcorn and sitting on your couch and watching Camp Rock. Like
100%. If you go to their game, that means more to them than walking them through a 500-week Bible reading plan. I mean, it really does.
Right. Well, I'm kind of tired. I'm not gonna lie.
Me too, especially with your MRE situation.
Yeah. Before we shot the podcast, I was in an Eno asleep for like 15 minutes. You walked by and said, "Did you get a good nap?" I said, "Yeah, about 15 minutes." We set this up. I get on the radio, start calling for you, no answer.
Dude,
only to find out that you were asleep.
I was on the verge. I was about to be asleep. And, one of our students comes in and is like, "Hey, Brennan wants you." And just knowing the student, I was like, "No, he doesn't." And I just rolled back over, and he was like, "No, he really does." So then I was like, "Oh, my radio's off." So I almost forgot we had a podcast for a second.
I know.
Youth camp does that. I mean, it literally you're in a bubble, and you're just like you're on a different planet.
Yeah, you lose track
Love
of
it
time.
though. Absolutely love it.
Well, I think you can see some of our team behind us. Irish is back there. The Void viewers have never seen Irish, but Irish is the one who made sure that we could actually do this. Rebecca,
he's the one that pushes the buttons.
Yeah, and makes dude, he talks in code sometimes. I'm like, I don't know what you're saying. Just does it work? Okay, great, it works. We also have Rebecca and Brad Beal back there, our worship pastor and his wife. Shout out to them leading here with us at camp, which I found out last night that Rebecca can sing. Did you know that?
I did not.
Yeah,
it doesn't surprise me, but I didn't know.
She's hiding from us. She was firing the slides side stage, just in her own world, and I heard her harmonizing with Brad, and in the middle of worship, I was like, she's lying.
That's probably wise. That's probably wise because she's been around worship long enough to know if she can sing, she's going to get asked to sing all the time. So
yeah,
I respect that.
We definitely will have that happen. And if you can see, we have the kitchen crew back there led by the amazing Drew and Jennifer Altum. Actually, I should say led by the amazing Jennifer.
There you go.
And
there you
Drew
go.
Altum.
Don't get it twisted.
Jennifer made sure that we all got fed all week long, and then Drew is just kind of her, what we call Drew, her Swiss Army knife. Yeah. For the week. That works.
Don't you love how many people it takes just to make camp go, and then seeing the kids just it's like fish in a barrel. They come in, they do the system, and they leave, and they have no idea how many people were working to make it happen.
It's a lot of work. The worst part, which this is why I say openly, there's probably 1,000 better youth pastors than me, because when it comes to camp, which is 20% signing kids up, 80% living on a Google sheet.
Right.
I am awful at the Google sheet. So when things get left, it's my fault, or things don't get paid, it's my fault. But we're here. It's great.
We made it. All right. Well, if you're listening to this podcast, we appreciate it. Make sure to share it with somebody who would be interested in a genuine conversation about youth ministry. If you're listening on Spotify, make sure to give us 5 stars. If you're listening on YouTube, like it, leave a comment, let us know what you think, and we'll see you on the next episode of The Void.